Hello, welcome back to the PHNX Cardinals podcast presented to you by the DraftKings Sportsbook app, America's top-rated sportsbook. Apologies, had some technical difficulties here. Johnny Venerable, Bo Brock. We are being joined by NFL insider Benjamin Allbright. He's going to give us his opinion on the Arizona Cardinals hiring of Jonathan Gannon, as well as everything that's going on with Sean Payton, Bo.
Yeah, Sean Payton, I mean, he just made there's rumblings that he could add to his defensive staff, another kind of LOL, laugh out loud hire potentially, and Matt Patricia to join Vance Joseph. Sean Desai is going to take over. He's the successor in Philadelphia now as the defensive coordinator for Jonathan Gannon as Nick Sirianni kind of rebuilds his staff. But, you know, Gannon exits. You've got Shane Steichen that took the job in Indianapolis. But, you know, what we continue to be blown away by Jonathan Gannon, how he has an answer for every question that he asks. Now, we haven't seen him put any of all the things that he's been discussing in motion, but we fully anticipate that. But we bring on the guy that first planted the seed way back when in January, very shortly after Black Monday and Cliff Kingsbury was blown out as Arizona Cardinals head coach. We bring on Benjamin Allbright, of course, NFL insider, KOA in Denver. And Benjamin, I mean, I think we got to give you your flowers, man. You called it way back when. They were going to interview him. It obviously, with the new NFL rules in place and when you can interview candidates and how far and how deep the Eagles went, you know, the Cardinals just had to wait that one out to talk to Gannon.
Yeah, I may have put my foot a little bit in the mouth when the announcement was coming, but I might have gotten a frantic phone call or two. But no, we kind of knew this was coming a while back, and I tried to leave some breadcrumbs out there. You know, maybe they're waiting on someone, so that everybody kind of knew what was going on. But it was, it's good. You got the right guy. You know, in the end, I'm a big John Gannon fan. You're going to have a very smart staff. Drew Petzing is a very intelligent guy, and they're going to do the offense as best they can around Kyler. On the defensive side of the ball, Nick Rallis is somebody everybody coveted. You know, he's kind of viewed as the Sean McVay of defense, kind of a wonderkind, in his 20s, taking over as a DC. And John's going to be more of a CEO type coach, not really going to take the defensive coordinator and try to double dip on that. I think that's smart for a young coach.
Do you think the Arizona Cardinals in a way benefited from Gannon and potentially having Denver and Houston initially be interested and then for whatever reason go different ways? Like, it didn't ever feel like Gannon was like the front runner. Certainly he was going to be in the mix, but like the time where we had these openings at the end of the regular season, like I think a lot of people were connecting the dots that Gannon would end up in Houston, no?
They were, and this is a long story, so I'll try to make it as brief as possible.
Tell the whole thing.
There was DeMeco wasn't sure that he was going to take a head coaching gig this cycle, and he narrowed down his options, kind of eliminated the other options. Yeah. He liked Denver and he liked Houston. And Denver was initially on Harbaugh, and then Harbaugh decided to go back to Michigan. So they go through the interview process, and DeMeco blew him away. Yeah. And so Denver really, really liked DeMeco. They're telling, hey, you're going to be the guy. We're going to make you the guy. All this kind of stuff. Well, then Denver shoots itself in the foot, flying up to Michigan to re-interview Harbaugh out of nowhere. DeMeco finds out about it, and he's like, no, bleep you guys. Yeah. I'm going to go to Houston. At that point in time, it was down to Gannon or Ryans for Houston. It was always going to be one of those two guys in Houston. And so when, Cal McNair and Hannah McNair, they talked about it, and they started like pivoting. Nick Caserio wanted John Gannon, but the ownership wanted their guy, DeMeco Ryans, come back. There's a lot to that. And so in the end, they kind of they pivoted over to DeMeco when he left, kind of the Denver thing, and that left Gannon kind of the odd man out on that. Now, Gannon and Monti Ossenfort obviously have a relationship that goes way back, and that was kind of something that once Monti got the job there, that's when Gannon popped up on the Arizona radar. He hadn't really been on the Arizona radar at that point. They'd interviewed a few people, but he hadn't been on the interview. When Ossenfort came in, that was his guy. Yeah. And they played it perfectly. They kept it quiet, kept it under the radar, made it seem like it was a late kind of thing, but that was really kind of the target all along.
Yeah, Benjamin, you've done a good job in kind of highlighting and giving people insight onto who these pretty much, as far as relative to the NFL, unknowns, like Drew Petzing and Nick Rallis, obviously linebacker coach for the Eagles, and then this entire staff that's following Gannon. But what we've been impressed by, and also when you kind of compare it to how slowly things are moving in Denver with Sean Payton, how Gannon has approached his staff, building his staff. He's very convicted in these guys, and they're not household names. They're under-the-radar guys, but this fan base is excited about it. Can you kind of give us some more insight on who these guys are and why Gannon has kind of picked them out?
Well, he's looking for intelligent guys. I mean, and a lot of the pivot in the NFL has been to experience.
Yeah.
But that doesn't necessarily always translate. A guy can be in the league a long time and not be, very good at it.
Capacity and character is what he says, right? Two things he's looking for from those guys.
And that's really what it is. At the end of the day, if you've got strong character, the capacity is going to end up taking care of itself too. If you've got the ability to learn things and improve and at the same time disseminate that information. Coaching is about taking a player and who he is and looking at that player and who his best self is and having those two people meet.
Yeah.
And that's what coaching is about. It's elevating those kinds of things. And so that's what John's looking for on his staff is guys that go, okay, I see this guy and I can make him the best version of himself, and here's how. Guys that have a plan to do that, guys that understand that, and that can come at a young age. I mean, Sean McVay's very good at that. It was very young. Now Sean's getting closer to 40 now, but I mean that's not like some of these 60-year-old guys that are out there, doing this kind of stuff. So you can be a guy that's been in the league forever and not be able to do it as well as some of these guys. Pat Shurmur's been around the league forever.
Yeah.
Right? But do we really think that Pat Shurmur's going to run a better offense than Drew Petzing? No, probably not.
Right.
So, at the end of the day, I think it really is about, what they bring to the table in terms of intelligence and ability to adapt to the game and ability to adapt to their players.
Do you have an idea, Ben, of how they're going to tackle free agency in the draft when you think about the turnover and the carryover of so many of Keim and Kingsbury's guys? This roster is littered with them. Now, they've got, a surplus of free agents, but we've been trying to prepare our listeners, our audience, that, really outside of Kyler Murray, everything might be on the table for this team.
I think everything is on the table. Kyler's obviously going to be back for this year, but this is going to be kind of a, can we make this work with him and then go from there kind of thing. They're going to give him every opportunity. It's not like they're looking to move on from him, but they're going to sit there and do this. I think there are going to be some painful move-ons. DeAndre Hopkins probably isn't going to be back.
Right.
From what I'm hearing, Kansas City is the primary suitor there. That's going to be interesting to let them get another weapon. But
do you think for their first-round pick or their second-round pick?
I don't. As far as I don't know where the draft compensation will be. I don't think you're going to get a first-rounder for Hop. I'll just be honest with you. But,
okay.
At this point, especially with the suspension for the performance, all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's just not going to. I don't think you're going to get that. But you could probably get a second-rounder for it. But I do think Kansas City is probably the destination there. We'll see. I just like I said, that's a rumor's floating around out here, so we'll kind of see where that shakes out. They'll reinvent the team in the way that they the image that they have and what it is that they're trying to do. There's going to be some differences on defenses, obviously, because of how the defenses run. Previously with Vance, obviously, I cover the Broncos. I know what Vance runs. Now he's coming back. I get to see it again. But it is going to be different with some of those things and how some of those players are utilized and what players you need in order to make it run. So there will be some guys that are fan favorites that are there now that definitely won't be back.
Do you think it's going to be reminiscent of how he's built his staff, though? It's not known commodities. It's guys that he trusts, guys that he knows is going to come in and be able to run Nick Rawls' system, and guys that can compete in Drew Petzing's system on the offensive side of the football. Not household names, but guys that he trusts to go and put in the work.
I don't know that unknowns is the right way to say it, because if you're in the NFL, you're pretty much a known commodity at this point. But I think it's the right guy for the right scheme. I mean, you're gonna be transferring the offense to something different. You previously been running a spread offense. You're probably going to run something that's a little more zone oriented and West Coast. On the defensive side of the ball, you'd have Vance Joseph's kind of 34 Wade Phillips style defense. You're going to be running something that's a little bit more akin to a 4-man front. You may have an end standing up right now as they transition that. There's just going to be trying to find the right guys to do all this kind of stuff, and it's a process. It takes longer. You look at last year with the Philadelphia Eagles, the defense wasn't very good. Part of that was because John Gannon. I'll tell you a story here. Nobody knows this. So last year, the Philadelphia Eagles, when they were trying to put together their team, Nick Sirianni gets there. They're getting all this stuff together the first year, and they say, okay, what are we going to do here? John Gannon goes to Sirianni, goes to Howie Roseman. He says, take care of the offensive side of the ball. Don't worry about me. The defense will be bad for a year. We'll figure this out, and we'll get it going from there. So they did. They invested all that stuff on the offensive side. And last year, not this past season, but the season before that, the defense looked bad in Philadelphia. It was partially because John Gannon just threw himself on the altar and said, hey, look, let's fix one side of the ball first, and then we'll come. So then they commit to fixing the defense in the second year, and you saw the marked improvement that it made once they got the type of players that John needed to make that work. So I think he's going to bring that philosophy here too. We're going to fix this as best we can. We understand we're building for the long term. So how do we get to where we want to be? Does that mean balancing the resources? Does that mean condensing them to one side of the ball? I think they'll probably condense it to one side of the ball, make the offense go first, and kind of work the defense a little bit at a time.
How do you think Gannon stacks up against this gauntlet of elite coaches in the NFC West? I think that was one of Cliff Kingsbury's undoings. I always thought Cliff was an adequate coach, but especially in this division, you get exposed by the Shanahans, the Pete Carrolls, the Sean McVays. In your opinion, can Gannon get to that level with those guys?
Yes, and it's because he'll make adjustments. And I know people are going to laugh at me because of the Super Bowl thing, but there's a story behind that. We'll get to that in a minute. The reality is John Gannon that's the reason he hired the staff. A bunch of smart guys that know how to make adjustments. Cliff never made adjustments, and that was the problem. They start off hot, and then you tank in the middle of the season once everybody figured everything out.
Right, yeah.
Everybody knew everything. So they were like, all right, I got to know how to beat these guys.
Yeah.
John will make adjustments, and the staff will make adjustments, and they won't be as predictable as far as that kind of stuff goes. The Rams, I mean, that's a team that's getting gutted right now.
Yeah.
Stafford's on his last legs. He's got a bad back, a bad elbow. It's a team they're gutting, and they're paying the price for kicking it forward like they have throughout the years. The Seattle Seahawks, they're sort of in a quasi-rebuild. Is Geno even going to be around? They're going to go in a different direction. What's the offense going to look like there? And then you've got San Francisco in there, which is a very good football team. That's who everybody's chasing. You got a strong cover 3 defense there. You got the offense. They got to figure out who's going to be the quarterback, but it just works. So that's who everybody's going to be chasing. There's no way. Arizona could easily be second in this division. They could be fourth. I mean, that's your window right there. I don't think you're overtaking 49ers year one. Do you get there eventually? That remains to be seen with what they do and how the staff and how this team comes together and what Kyler looks like in the system. But for right now, I think second place in this division is wide open.
Yeah, we saw Vance Joseph, his staff kind of exit before he exited, right? Just because how things kind of went down in the timeline on that. Are you hearing of anybody that could possibly, player or coach, that could follow Vance Joseph? There weren't many coaches, so is there any players? Because we didn't see it like the reverse of it. When Vance Joseph left in 2018 after his tenure as Broncos head coach, he didn't bring his guys from Denver. So do guys, I mean, they said he could have been the front runner because all the respect he commanded. Could somebody come and follow him to Denver?
It's possible, and Zach Allen could be one of those guys, especially with the Broncos letting Draymond hit the market. Yeah. We'll see about that. I don't think that they're after the corner there.
Byron Murphy.
I don't think they're after Byron Murphy. I think they're pretty deep at the corner and on the back end. But obviously, Chris Banjo comes over as a coach and followed him. But I think if you're looking at that team, I mean, Zach Allen's probably the guy, if there's going to be a guy that just fits, what it is they're trying to do. Overall, maybe he gets one of those quasi-positionless young guys to in trade or something like that. Isaiah Simmons, if John can't find a role, they can't find a role for him. Maybe that's somebody to bring over. Yeah. I'd love to see a Zaven Collins, but I don't know that you're going to be able to pry him loose. So that those kinds of things.
If Simmons would even want that trade, though. I mean, I feel like if it was Zaven Collins, probably he would embrace it. But I felt like how VJ handled Simmons at the beginning of last season. I mean, Travis Kelce roasts him like he does everybody.
Right.
And then he sees 30 snaps the next 2 games. I mean, Simmons, it made him a better player, but I don't know if he truly appreciates how he was handled.
Maybe. And that's something to factor in there.
It's a great point.
When you're looking around at who would be available, even, and you got to figure out this defense because you're going to go, like I said, you're transitioning from a 34 cover 0 to a 43-2 high. Like it's going to be a little bit different in terms of personnel.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. So Sean Payton, new head coach of the Denver Broncos, connected to Arizona and now becomes the head coach of Denver. And these two franchises, there's so many similarities. They've got these polarizing quarterbacks, right? We were here at the Combine last year. We're fast forward to 2023. New head coaches for both franchises. Now, they were both connected to Gannon, both connected to Payton. What's been your overall take for this Sean Payton saga? Was he ever an option for the Cardinals, or do you think that it was a leverage play to better his chances with a team like Denver?
Both. I mean, I think that he was sort of an option for Arizona, but it was really more for the ownership side of the house. Michael Bidwell Ossenfort really kind of had his eye on Gannon the whole time. Sean Payton was the third option for Denver.
Right.
And it's so funny because everybody was talking about the hottest coach this cycle and all this stuff. Well, wait a minute. Why did nobody invite him back for a second interview if he's the hottest coach this cycle?
Yeah.
So Jero Avero got second interviews everywhere.
Yeah.
So that part was of interest to me. I think that he would have if their discussion had gone down the road there, that could have been a thing. I think in the end, they just kind of had their guy with John. We're just kind of waiting on that. Lou Anarumo had a good meeting there, but I don't think that was ever as serious as the media was letting it on as they were breadcrumbing trying to wait for Gannon to get there. As far as the rest of it goes, though, I mean, Payton coming out to Denver, I think it's a good hire for Denver. It's a little bit different situation where you had a one and done with Nathaniel Hackett. In fact, he got fired in season outside of Urban Meyer. Last time that happened was the 70s before Bill Walsh was hired. And that guy attended his own outgoing press conference. Somebody asked him if he was surprised he got fired. He said, "I haven't been surprised by anything since I found out they didn't make ice cream cones filled to the bottom of the cone."
Oh man!
So it's just I think the Denver situation is wildly different, where you needed experience back in the room. You saw a guy who was in over his head in Nathaniel Hackett, and I wish him well down the line, but he was just in over his head. You know, and so you needed Sean Payton to come in there and kind of set the ship right. It's a proud franchise that hadn't been back to the playoffs since their Super Bowl, and they've got to turn this thing around. You've got a ton of money invested in Russell Wilson. You got to find somebody that can maximize him, at least see if there's anything worth doing that. So.
You're in a safe place here. And this fan base, our listeners, our viewers, felt spurned to an extent with Sean Payton, so we can maybe air some dirty laundry. And I know that you're trying to embrace this hire for Broncos fans, and it's good. I don't think anybody would disagree. I think we would be pumping up Sean Payton as the head coach. But how you see things playing out, because there were the early reports that he was putting together this super staff, and then it just kind of seems like. Who's just available? Who can I get at this point? It doesn't seem to have any kind of flow to it, any kind of relationship, but who's available? Can I get them?
Well, everybody's putting together a super staff, right? Just like everybody gets everybody they want to in the draft, right?
Right.
I do think that there was an element of that, and he was, Vic Fangio was on the docket, but that was all when Sean Payton was getting one of the LA jobs, which was the initial plan. When he came out of the booth, it was, I'm going to leverage everything else. I'm getting this LA job. It's going to be that.
The Charger job, you think?
Either one. And then Sean McVay didn't retire, and they didn't fire Brandon Staley. And so he had put this thing together to almost take the Chargers job, because if you think about it, Brandon Staley is a Vic Fangio disciple, and they're running the Vic Fangio defense. Joe Lombardi is a Sean Payton disciple, who's running the offense. Sean Payton says, "Look, I can bring the originators in. You can fire these guys. I can bring the originals in." And so there was a kind of an element of that. And then when none of that happened, and a lot of people internally feel like that he took the Texans virtual interview that Monday to try to nudge the Chargers after that disastrous loss to make the firings, and then they didn't do it. So that staff that was geared for that, just didn't kind of come together, with all that in the end. Vic Fangio coming back to Denver would have been odd. He'd just been the head coach. There were people in that locker room who had public statements that they couldn't walk back. It was just, you're going to wind up paying him $6 million a year. That's more than you're paying the fired coach that you just, and Hackett to be a head coach. So it was just, it just wasn't going to work. So Vic goes on to Miami. Well, now all of a sudden you got to figure out the DC thing. You bring in Vance. Bringing him back still weird, but not as weird.
Right.
And then, on the offensive side of the ball, Joe Lombardi was always going to be the guy. I never understood this stuff that hepeople are, he's an all-star coordinator. I'm like, Sean Payton's going to call the plays, and it's going to be Joe Lombardi. What do you guys, that's been his dude. So the surprises to me were kind of some of the young guys, like the Davis Webb, the Chris Banjo thing I know because Vance recommended him. That's not as surprising to me. But bringing Westhoff back,
Are they going to hire Matt Patricia in some role?
Possibly. They're still working on that. I would say 60-40 they do, but it's more about him being an analyst, run game, the title game, how that is, where he's a consultant, than it is an actual position or anything like that. So, it's possible that happens. I would say 60-40 it does.
If I had put you on the spot, going back to the Cardinals and Petsing, do you think Jacoby Brissett is their starting quarterback to begin next year, or do you think it could be somebody else, depending on when Kyler comes back?
Yeah, Jacoby, they're going to look into that. I don't know 100% that they're going to get that thing done, but that's one they will look at. There are other names out there that could be involved.
Minshew, you think he's an option?
One. And, as uninspiring as it is, Colt is right there and knows that, he knows that offense. I was there for the Colt versus Rippon, game, obviously. So
God bless you.
Yeah, the backup bowl. The backup bowl of 2022.
2020. It was a highlight of a year. In a year that get progressively worse as it went along, that was one of the highlights, sadly. Man. So, I mean, there are options there as far as that goes. I really do think the Cardinals fans need to look at this as a building year. Think of it as year zero. Don't think of it as we haven't been to the playoffs in this long, or we didn't get it done with Cliff. And to start off, when you get a new staff and you new people in there, rethink of it as year zero. And if you think of it, it's easier to understand that this is going to be a building year. You're not going to win as much as you want. If the ball bounces right, you could backdoor your way into a wild card and that kind of thing. And there's nothing wrong with that. But it's really not a situation where, we're all in on this year. We're pushing it, Super Bowl or bust, kind of thing. That's not realistic.
But should we expect like a sacrificial Gannon, though? just like you mentioned in his first year in Philly, where he was just willing to kind of wear it for a year and realize that, hey, we're going to take our lumps, but it's for the better good.
Like. And Monti Ossenfort knows what that looks like. And so I do think, I'm not saying it's going to be a disaster, but I am saying that they are willing to do what it takes. They're willing to sacrifice short term.
It's a necessary evil
in order to build the long term.
Yeah, I mean, there's no depth on this team. They went 4-13. It was more. I mean, Kyler played the bulk of the season, and you still didn't get the results that you wanted. They needed to hit their full reset, needed to rebuild some things, and it's gonna take some wear and tear.
One free agent that he could potentially bring with him from Philadelphia. Do you think?
Gardner Johnson, maybe.
Yeah,
I mean,
really?
I know he likes some of the guys up front, but Gardner Johnson's such a tone setter, and you put him back there with Buddha, and you got something, man.
Do you deal like a Jalen Thompson? Or
I don't know how you work that out.
Isaiah
I mean,
Simmons?
there's a bunch of different ways to do that, and Simmons, I think, becomes a linebacker in that scenario.
I do too.
But,
yeah.
But with Jalen, that's kind of the odd man out. But see, I'm telling you, man, like he's like the NFL's Patrick Beverley.
Yeah.
You know, like everybody hates him except the guy whose team he's on, and you love it because he's that guy.
Yeah.
He's
you
the
saw
guy
him get in the mix with the Juju stuff.
That's what he does, though. He's that guy, and he sets the tone. It reminds me of if you were the Broncos when Akeem Talib was there.
Of
you know?
course,
I mean, you need that dude snatching chains. You got to have one of those. Not everybody can be a choir boy, and so having a guy like Gardner Johnson out there, man, I'm telling you, like fans, if he can make that happen along the defense, like the Eagles' defense is going to get gutted just by virtue of the money numbers. So there are going to be guys that are there. Look along that defensive front as well, because they're going to have to change the front that you're already operating out of.
Right.
So look along that.
They're going to run a 4-3 defense.
I think they are. I mean, you may see some hybrid transitional stuff, but eventually I think it'll be a 4-3.
With Will Anderson hopefully in the Hassan Reddick role.
I'm not sure you guys are going to wind up with Will. I think you're at 3. I think the phones are open. I think you trade back. I think the Bears go back to 2 and then back to 4, wind up with Will. I think you guys go backwards a little bit, wind up with some good players in a big haul as well.
You think that? Okay. It's interesting.
Are we talking like we're staying in the top 10, right? Carolina, Vegas?
Ideally, I think Carolina is kind of the limit as far as how far back you'd go.
So they're open. They want picks.
They're open for business, and it's smart. If you're a GM and a coach in your first year, why not get the bankroll big so you can parlay that forward to a year? What happens? Let's play this hypothetical game. Let's say Kyler doesn't work out. All right, let's just say it happens. God forbid. Let's say it doesn't. Well, if you've stacked up the draft picks, and next year you can shoot up the board and find yourself in the mood for a Caleb Williams or a Drake May, are you really passing that up because you've already got the draft currency available to do it? So it's better to be prepared for that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't happen, and now you've got this extra draft capital you can keep rolling forward, a la what the Eagles and the Dolphins have done, than to not be prepared for it and show up and be like, well, now we can't get either one of these, and this didn't work out.
You've been pretty adamant you think Houston's going to 1.
I think they are.
Could that happen this week?
It could. Yeah, very much could. I do believe that they're actively trying to move back from that. The Chicago is, and Houston wants to make sure they cement Bryce Young as their guy. So that's going to be interesting to see when that gets done. It could be done.
There was an easier path to that. Do they know that?
Yeah, until Lovey was like, "Hey, current team, I'm hooking my old team up." So yeah.
Double birds.
Benjamin, you're the man.
Yeah, that's great. Great insight. You can't find anywhere else. Benjamin Allbright, of course, you got to follow him on Twitter at Allbright NFL. Benjamin, we'll talk to you soon, man. Enjoy the rest of the time in Indy. We'll see you out there at the fine establishments.
Let's do it.
Yeah, we'll make the rounds tonight. Give me a text. But it's good to see you guys. Enjoy John Gannon.
Thanks,
we
man.
will.
Unbelievable stuff.
Great stuff. Man, oh, man. This team, buckle up. Get ready. Let's ride? No, let's not do that. We're going to talk about what Monti and company had to say today. We talked about uniforms, Isaiah Simmons, but I want to tell everybody, DraftKings right now, combine odds are available. I don't know if specific like props are available, specific to players, but I know you can bet the over-under on 40 times. I've got Shane Diefenbach off air.
Yeah.
Tell me, yell at me real quick what an odd I can get on DraftKings. He's putting the finger up real quick.
1 second. Give him 1 second.
Okay.
He's trying to load it on the spotty internet here.
We lost internet earlier.
We did.
That's why our show was a little bit late.
All right, let me go first because we talked about going out into some nice establishments here in Indianapolis. If we were trying to round up a crew and go out, I want them to take them to Four Peaks. But there's no Four Peaks, unfortunately, in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
But there is one in Tempe.
Okay.
And there's one in the airport
of course.
At Sky Harbor. You can find Four Peaks beers in your grocery store, your gas station, convenience store. You can find it all around your great state of Arizona.
Yeah.
They've got your favorite beers. We had a couple before we took off. We had Kilt Lifter, had a Wow Wheat, the Arizona's #1 wheat. Shane had a hazy IPA. You can't go wrong with any of the brews over at Four Peaks. You can't go wrong if you go get dinner. You go get lunch at Four Peaks. Go get yourself an appetizer, maybe some dessert. You can't go wrong with the atmosphere. Catch a game. How about Katie's son's debut tomorrow? It'd be a great place to go watch that at Four Peaks. Synonymous, drinking a cold one and watching a sporting event. You don't want to miss out on that. Plus, they're teaming up with the McDowell Mountain Music Festival, the M3F Festival. It's March 3rd and 4th. You can go grab your tickets at M3FFFest.com. That's a freaking hard website to say. Enjoy the Wow Wheat beer while you're there because it's there, and Four Peaks is representing as they always do. You got to be 21 years or older and enjoy it responsibly. Like we're going to enjoy our adult beverages tonight in Indianapolis.
I'm going to enjoy an adult beverage, and I'm going to dabble on DraftKings.
Yes.
Shane, what do you got for me on the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now?
So right now the odds aren't available, but they will be. Last year I bet on a lot of it.
Okay.
My favorite's the 40 time. I remember I took Sky Moore's under on his 40, and he ran like sub whatever, or he didn't run sub whatever it was, and then he didn't run his second time. I'm like, what the hell, Sky Moore? And then they corrected it, and they fixed it, and I won the bet.
Ooh.
So you can bet on the
unbelievable.
40 for sure.
Yeah.
And you can bet on who has the fastest 40 time. You can bet on if the 40 time the record gets broken for the 40 time at a combine. So lots of fun stuff. Only on the DraftKings.
It's fantastic because Shane's illegitimate children now are going to college because of that bet.
Can I tell you, we flew here yesterday from Phoenix, and I sat next to that man-child, and he had DraftKings open, betting on Howard University basketball, and lost his bet.
He's coming back.
Hang on.
For our podcast listeners.
The camera's not in frame. You're not in frame.
Oh, I just need it for a second.
Okay.
Howard University.
Oh, here's bad beats with Shane Deep.
Yes.
They were minus 4.5.
Okay.
Howard was up by 5 with 26.
Can't believe this is happening again.
26 seconds to go. Howard fouls a three-point shooter, which is fine. It happens. Whatever.
Yeah.
The guy on South Carolina State, 5 and 25, by the way, or 5 and 22, makes all 3 free throws. So now Howard's up by 2. Instead of getting fouled with 26 seconds left, the shot clock is off.
Yeah.
They shoot a 3. I don't know why. I have no idea why. They shoot a 3. And not only do they shoot a 3, they get their own rebound and then shoot another jumper after the shot clock has surely been turned off. They get a rebound again and make a tip shot. They win by 4 points. I lose.
Get off my set.
You just
All right.
That beats presented by DraftKings.
That's right.
Yes, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code PHNX. You can be a solid customer like Shane Diefenbach. New customers can bet a mere 5-spot, get $200.
He's a satisfied customer, though, at the end of the day. He's mad at Howard. He's not mad at DraftKings for giving him that action and making him feel alive on that airplane. He was 30,000 feet up in the air, and he was living, baby.
$200 in bonus bets, instantly 5-spot. You can bet the money line, the spread, any of these NFL draft props. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Promo code PHNX. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. I think that's probably not going to be one of the DraftKings reads that we clip for the old highlight reel at the end of the year. But here's a highlight. We got to talk to Jonathan Gannon and Monti Ossenfort today, and one of the many questions was surrounding the future of DeAndre Hopkins. Here's what they had to say.
Yeah, I'm not sure. You know, we're looking at evaluating everybody. I know this. He's a premier receiver that you have to have a plan for, and he severely limits you with how you have to play defense when you defend a team that he's on. So look forward to getting to know Hop a little bit. And like I said, I've went against him a lot of times, played against him a lot, and he's a valuable asset for us.
I've had a conversation with DeAndre and DeAndre's representative. Those have been very productive conversations. You know, I've watched from afar the last 10 years or whatever it's been with DeAndre, and have been on teams that have had to compete against him. I've seen the player that DeAndre is and what he can do on the field, and I know he's tough to defend. And so, you know, I'm glad that he's on the team. And, you know, I think with him or as it goes to any player, those are situations that we'll address as they come up. But I'm glad DeAndre is on the team right now, and I'm happy to be on the same team with him.
I'm not sure. A.K.A. I'm very sure that we're going to deal DeAndre Hopkins for picks, because if you go and find the T. Higgins clip from their GM, they basically said, stay away. T. Higgins is not available. Monti Ossenfort, Jonathan Gannon have had every opportunity to do that this offseason. And instead, they're kind of beating around the bush, which leads us to believe, as we've talked about with our guy Jordan Schultz on the show, Insider Benjamin Allbright just a few moments ago, DHop, he's in his final days as an Arizona Cardinal.
Yeah, and Monti Ossenfort was transparent there that he said he's talked to DeAndre Hopkins and he's talked to his representation. I mean, why else would they have those conversations? I mean, here you have a guy that's going into his age 31 season, coming off of a team that went 4-13, and the writings on the walls we just outlined with Benjamin Allbright, very well, that this is a rebuild. Now, could it be ahead of a schedule rebuild? Sure.
Yeah.
But the likelihood of that happening and DeAndre Hopkins contending for that ring that he's seeking at this point in his career and what he's trying to put on his resume for the Hall of Fame, it's likely not happening here. So you can find a mutually beneficial deal for both sides to have DeAndre Hopkins, who probably has 1-2 solid years, really good years left in him in the tank. And then he can go contend for it, and the Arizona Cardinals can help expedite a rebuild by adding draft capital.
All right, so I'm pulling up
and cap space.
All right, so Benjamin Allbright on the show, word on the street here in Indy, saying that Kansas City's a team to watch. And we had talked about Kansas City.
That's what we had. That was who they had the betting favorite months ago.
So Kansas City has pick 31.
Yeah.
Ben kind of adamant.
I don't think that's out of play.
You don't think so?
No.
Okay. Let's assume it is. Let's just assume. Let's play a little game.
Okay.
And assume it is. Are you comfortable with pick 63 and one of their 2 4s? So 122 either from Miami or 134. So they come in, they say a 2 and a 4 for DHop, but it's basically the latest 2 you can get that's not a comp pick. Mm-hmm. Are you okay with that? 63 and 122.
I don't want to be an entitled fan or a fan that is unrealistic with where he is in his career, but I think you could do a little bit better than nearly a third-round pick for DeAndre Hopkins.
Okay.
I think you could hold out and get close to a first-round pick.
You do?
Yeah. You don't think Chicago's going to want to play to be in that conversation?
Well, our bros from CHGO want to play in that ballpark.
Yeah. Come on.
They had Ryan Pools on their show
They
earlier.
also, but then you're looking at only a few picks better. That's 56 that they have from the Ravens.
I think, to me, and of course it is, it's going to come down to
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. If you're Monti Ossenfort, if you're Michael Bidwell, and you've talked to DeAndre Hopkins, and there's mutual respect there, and both sides see the reasoning for moving DeAndre Hopkins, do you do him a solid that if it comes down between Chicago and catching passes from Justin Fields and you get a few picks better, or sending him to play with Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City for a few picks worse? Do you do him that solid?
I think the appeal.
Or do you go for the best? You go for the highest pick possible?
Typically, I would say it's the best pick, and I'm inclined to say that is my answer. But I also think there's the factor of moving them to the AFC and knowing you just play Kansas City, and you're probably never going to have to play DeAndre Hopkins. I think that plays a part in it for Michael Bidwell. It may not for Monti Ossenfort and JG because they have no ties to DHop outside of joining the team right now today. But I think that, again, I think they're going to get a second-round pick and some change, whether it's a 2 and a 4, a 2 and a 5. And, again,
when you get that late in the second round, I think it becomes – because we discussed a mock trade from the Giants, and it was like a second and a fifth. I think when you get close to where it's a third-round pick, it becomes imperative that you get a second and a fourth.
Yeah, that's fine. And they have 2 4s. You think that – I mean, Kansas City's roster was littered with young players last year that got experience. I think this roster, obviously it's deep. It won the Super Bowl. So it's going to be tough for them right now with – I think they've got almost 10 picks in this draft. Like, they're the team with pick 31, 63, 95, and then 2 4s. Like, they're a team to watch, absolutely. And their receiving core was below average this year. I mean, Juju, you would assume, is not coming back. You know, they made the trade for the kid from the Giants. He's under contract. He's making no money,
right?
Even though it was a first-round pick. That's really about it.
And
Hardman's a free agent.
Kelsey's older than Zach Ertz.
Right.
Did you know that?
I did, yeah.
It's pretty wild.
Their window is wide open with Mahomes, but I think you try to double and triple down and put your knee on the throat of the rest of the people in that conference, the rest of the teams in that conference. You come out of the gate with DeAndre Hopkins. To me, like, you ask for their one, absolutely. Mm-hmm. And if they can't do that, do you potentially do, like, I don't know, some pick swaps along the way? You got to get a sweetener. If you're just doing 63, I would say I agree with you. That's not good enough. 63 by itself for DHop, I'm almost inclined to keep DeAndre Hopkins. But if you do 63 and a 4 and a 5, I mean, those 4 and a 5 with this regime could end up being rotational players next year. Could end up being starters down the line. We just heard from Benjamin Allbright say the team wants to trade down and get more picks from 3 potentially, and I think we need to prepare ourselves for this. Maybe a 1 next year. So asset acquisition, and we need to.
But let's refocus this conversation. Let's talk about the wide receiver market. I mean,
terrible.
Kenny Golladay just got released, and he's probably vying for one of the more talented wide receivers that's available.
I think DeAndre Hopkins could get traded this week.
Yeah, and I think that you can drive the price up because of the lack of talent that's available at that position.
You don't say that today. When Gannon goes, right. I'm not sure. If you felt like that you weren't close to something.
I'm not sure. He's a pretty good player, though. Yeah.
That
if we have to have him, I like having him on my team, but I'm not sure.
If you're going to long play this, then you say, we love DeAndre Hopkins. Yeah. We're going to feel fortunate if he's on our team. I don't know. I have no source on this, but something tells me that they might be close to something here. To just kind of rip that Band-Aid off and say, okay, we have our capital, get your receiver. You obviously want to deal him ahead of free agency.
Gannon hasn't even talked to him.
Yeah.
Gannon's been the coach of this team for 2 weeks. He hasn't talked to the top wide receiver.
Yeah, I think
the writing is on the wall.
I think we could get a Bears trade down this week, and I think we could get a DHop trade this week. Wouldn't that be something?
Let's do it. Let's make a deal.
Let's talk about Isaiah Simmons.
Okay.
All right, so we asked a bunch of questions today, and we asked multiple questions on the former top 10 pick for the Arizona Cardinals, including what the hell position does he play? Here's the response.
We're working through that. So Isaiah, the defensive staff is in their process of evaluating the roster and where guys fit and positionally where guys are going to play. And so we have until May to make that decision, and we'll make that decision when it's appropriate. So we still got some time on Isaiah, but I know Isaiah is an extremely talented player, and he's big, he's long, he's fast, and I think we'll be able to find a good way to use him this year.
Yeah, good question. I look forward to figuring that out with him. And the coaches, it's not going to be, hey, you're stuck in this box, this is what you're doing. We got to see what he can handle physically and mentally, and know that he's a unique skill set guy, and we will use him accordingly.
So there were some answers in there, and then there were some non-answers.
Yeah.
This is my opinion, watching and listening in person and now on repeat. I think Isaiah Simmons is going to be on this team this year. Mm-hmm. I don't think his fifth-year option is getting picked up.
I get the same sense. It really feels like if Monti Ossenfort is going to exhaust between now and May and try to find some reason to pick up his fifth-year option, which would be in the realm of, $12 to $13 million to play. We don't know yet. As we saw from Jonathan Gannon, he said, we're going to find out together. It's like, okay, you're going to find out together throughout this offseason. You, Nick Rollis, are going to look at the tape, and you're going to talk to Isaiah, and he's going to be poised for probably his best season at the pro level, but it's not going to be with the comfort of a fifth-year option. This is going to be his prove-it year.
Yeah, and I think I'll agree with Allbright. I think he's a linebacker. I think he's been a linebacker. And I think in a 4-3 scheme, as a Will or a Sam, I like that fit for Isaiah Simmons. I think if that's not his position, nothing is. Then he's a forever tweener, because I don't think he's a traditional edge rusher. I don't think he's got the bend. He's certainly not a 3-4 inside backer that can get his nose dirty. We've seen that, right? He's been exposed in the run game. He's been exposed in coverage at times too. I think the linebacking core that you could potentially see this year, 4-3 defense.
Yeah.
Zaven Collins is your middle inside linebacker. You've got Isaiah Simmons at either Will or Sam, and I think they're going to sign that kid White from Philadelphia. And I think that's going to be their 4-3 defense. But I also think Isaiah Simmons, barring an all-pro, Pro Bowl level season, which could happen, I think he's going to be set free in the market next year. I think he's going to get a nice contract from somebody, and I think they're going to take their compensation pick.
Look at Tennessee. Look at Philadelphia. And look where they spend money. They don't spend money at the inside linebacker position. They just don't. T.J. Edwards was a guy that was an undrafted free agent that they developed over 5 years, and under Gannon and Rollis, he flourished, right? Yeah. He's going to be a free agent. He's probably going to get paid. I don't know if that's somebody that they want to, pay right away. I don't know if they just don't want to invest in that position. They want to invest in premium positions. Like Jonathan Gannon, you'll hear him later, and he'll echo this, but he said as far as defensive tackle and edge, those are premium positions that we want to invest in.
Yeah.
It's not stand up, sideline to sideline linebackers. Like they feel like they are such good defensive coaches that they can take somebody and make a dog out of them.
Yeah, like a late day 3 pick.
Right. So
That's why they want to accumulate these assets.
So I think we're on the same page here where we don't feel like there's a deal to be done, a trade to be made with Isaiah Simmons, but they're going to not pick up his fifth, and they're going to let him play out this season, have a good season, go into free agency, and then potentially the return for Isaiah Simmons is a good season of play and then maybe a compensatory pick.
Yeah, we'd have to do some additional research to see what non-fifth-year option players got an extension from that same team. I'm going to guess the list is pretty small. Going into your non-fifth-year option year, you don't get your option picked up, but then the team turns around and signs you. Like the Reddick situation would be the closest, and the Cardinals couldn't get a deal with him.
It burns a bridge, right? I mean, and I think Isaiah Simmons is not somebody.
So then, do you just trade him then? So you just move on him?
No, I mean you just have an affordable option of an athlete.
Yeah, I'll disagree because you listen to the guy who just sat next to us talk about they want picks, they want assets, they want to trade down. If somebody comes to you and will give you a third-round pick for Isaiah Simmons, you don't think they're listening? I know you wouldn't do that,
right?
But it's like they don't value the position. They're not picking up his.
At some point, you have to field a team this season. Like you can't. Even though he did say like
Gannon, go get his own guys from Philadelphia.
But you have to spend money. I mean, the team that plays in the two teams that play in the Super Bowl, players get overpaid, and that's the toughest toughest part about being those teams is and especially in the cap league is keeping those teams intact. Like Kazir White, T.J. Edwards, the 4 defensive linemen that are free agents, the cornerback and James Bradbury, you can't pay everybody. You can't, and if you're the Cardinals, you can't go overspend on those positions either.
People are upset in the chat saying, "What are you talking about, Johnny?" I'm not saying I would trade Isaiah Simmons for a third.
I mean, it continues his streak. His Iron Man streak of slandering Isaiah Simmons continues.
Listen, I asked no one was asking those questions. I said, "John, do you know what position he plays?" We're going to find out. No one knows, or if they know, they're not telling us. Like that to me is.
He said we're going to find out together, and that was a more.
When he's
definitive answer
to New England.
It's a more of a definitive answer than we'll see.
I just threw a third out there. I'm not saying he'll go for a third. I'm using it as a barometer when a guy like Roquan, who was about to get his payday, goes for a second.
If you can take T.J. Edwards undrafted out of Wisconsin, you can take Kazir White, and you can turn these guys into like high hundreds tackles and TFLs.
So bad.
And if you can develop Isaiah at all, he's a player for you. Let's not overlook that Isaiah Simmons made 4 game-changing plays for the team last year. That one that included, the second week of the season where they won the football game because he forced the fumble on Hunter Renfrow.
I like Matthew's comment because he's keeping receipts. Johnny was slandering Simmons on the Revenge of the Bird pod on draft day.
Never heard of that podcast.
Well, that's
where can I find that?
Neither here or there. The point being, I wanted Tristan Wirfs check the tape.
So did I.
All pro tackle.
So did I. But I also, when Simmons fell to them, I said, yeah, well, I get it. Yeah, and we know who was drafting him and what he was in love with as far as, here's this master of, here's this jack of all trades, master of none. We don't know what we're going to do with him, but we're going to make him drink out of a fire hose for a couple seasons and see what he remembers.
I want to be wrong on Isaiah Simmons. I want him to play well.
I don't think that at this point, with Keim gone, with Cliff Kingsbury gone, with Vance Joseph gone, I don't think anybody's wrong at this point. It's a new regime. They view him as whatever they want to figure out how to view him. But I just don't think it's going to, at the end of the day, be a trade. It just doesn't make sense.
To just let it play out.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to trade it for a third round pick now, you could get a compensatory third round pick in a year.
No, 2025.
Right.
So it's 2023.
What I'm talking about, so you're talking about for the 23 draft?
No.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If somebody comes to you and says, we need Simmons on our team this year, here's a third for you to spend right now. Mm-hmm. And if he's going to be taking grenades as the default leader on the defense, which he is, I mean, it's music to my ears. I could see him starting a third-round rookie inside linebacker, and just this is my new T.J. Edwards. He's going to call the defense. I don't. Patience is key with this team.
For sure.
So you mentioned a good point. Premium position inside linebacker is not, according to Jonathan Gannon. Here was he and Monti Ossenfort talking about their philosophy surrounding the third overall pick.
Yeah, I mean, probably not going to get into too many specifics. Those are 3 players that I have, studied, and we'll continue to study, and anxious to meet with them and do more work with them this week. Those are 3 talented players, and they all bring different skill sets, and they've had good college careers. So we're excited to dive more into them and see exactly how they would fit for our team moving forward.
Yeah, those are 2 premium positions with how we want to play defense in Arizona, because we know that they're impact positions. So we'll evaluate those guys like we evaluate everybody, but those are premium positions, and if they fit being an Arizona Cardinal, then we'll make that call.
So again, Jalen Carter, Will Anderson, another top 10 pass rusher, defensive tackle. Those are the premium positions you would assume the Cardinals are going to look at. And, it's not to downgrade what we've seen at other positions like corner, but the Cardinals have glaring omissions, glaring holes. I mean, we tried to listen to Monti Ossenfort and Jonathan Gannon talk about, like, the D-line in particular today. It was difficult. Like, the Cardinals don't have good players at those positions under contract. Yeah,
the one guy that they did have is exiting. The other guy retired. Zach Allen's probably going to command a big salary. And then you look at Lecky Fotu and Rashard Lawrence as they do their evaluations. I'm curious to hear what they think about the 2 former fourth-rounders, 2 guys that this organization has waited on for a long time. Like Lawrence, I think, played well when he was healthy, but that continues to be the trend each of his seasons here in the NFL. But we hear Allbright where he just feels like, I just don't think Anderson's going to be wearing an Arizona Cardinals uniform. But then you hear Gannon talk about the position, at least, and the 2 prospects that you asked about. I mean, it didn't seem like he was just saying, I don't see him wearing a Cardinals uniform. I think a guy like Jonathan Gannon would look at Will Anderson. He'll probably talk to him this week and realize that it'd be pretty fun to coach that guy day one.
Yeah, and you can't trade down just to trade down. And we've talked about that ad nauseum. You don't know who or what's going to be available. You also have to determine, like, is this a deep draft? Like, there could be people that say there's only 16 first-rounders in this draft. There could be people who said that the second round dries up, and that's why you can't trade Isaiah Simmons or DeAndre Hopkins for a late first. Like, it's all objective at this point. And so I don't think we have our answer. Again, I think the best case scenario is if you were somehow to be able to move down from 3 to 4 and assure yourself one of those 2 guys still.
Yeah.
But if Allbright, and he's been adamant about this, and we're going to take him at his word, Houston trying to go up to number 1 and still get Bryce Young, that to me, he's
saying the Bears would trade not once but twice. So they would trade from 1 to 2 and 2 to 4 with Indy. Mm-hmm. If you're the Cardinals, I mean, you're just kind of SOL there. You just can't.
Well, you need to just make the pick. If that's what's happening,
right?
And you feel like there's 2 teams trading around you, like, you just take the player. Like,
well, and that's also one of the interesting things I thought that Monti Ossenfort said is somebody straight up asked him, like, have you fielded any calls? He said he's open to taking calls about the third pick, but have you had any calls on it? And he's like, well, no, not at this point. I don't anticipate that until closer to the day. But it's like, why would any team waste their time calling about 3 when you've got 2 spots ahead of the Arizona Cardinals?
Until the Bears situation is resolved.
That's right. So you've got to potentially wait out not 1 but 2 deals.
The Cardinals, if you're hoping for some kind of mini trade down, you need to hope that it's like a Carolina or an Atlanta that comes up to number 1. It can't be Houston, because that really puts you in a tough spot, and it can't be Indy, and that would be difficult for the Cardinals. But I don't know, like, if we're sitting here at the end of the week and these quarterbacks light it up, where we know 3 of the top 4 are throwing this week, and we feel like
would it be inexplicable though? Is if Ryan Poles deals number 1 to number 4?
No, I don't think so.
It's just Houston just balked at it.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Or they talked themselves into 2 guys that they really like. Remember that was the Niners situation when they took Trey Lance? It's like, we got 3 guys
really well
that we really like. We would have taken Zach Wilson. We like Trey Lance. We like Trevor Lawrence. Yeah. So to me, we're not going to get resolution on this, I think, for a hot minute. And I think it would be foolish to write off Carter. And to me, if you had to put a barometer on it, I would say that if the pick would be Jalen Carter today, if both are on the board. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
And then, because that's the buzz around Indy, is like Carter is going to be the first non-quarterback taken. Like, he's not doing on-the-field workouts. I think he had a better season, right? And depending on who you ask, is a rush interior defensive tackle that can get after the quarterback more valuable than an edge rusher? I think like maybe 60-40 people would say yes. Plus this edge rushing class, we talked about it on yesterday's show. It's got 9 guys in the top 50 for Daniel Jeremiah, whereas like there's a couple defensive linemen, but no one's on Carter's level. So to me, like I think the conversation changes for Monti and company if Carter gets to 3 and you can stick and pick. But, like, how big of a gap, and I hate that I'm saying this, and I'm going to throw up in my mouth, is it between Will Anderson Jr. and Tyree, the kid from Texas Tech? Like, if you're trading down, you're taking Tyree, I want a future 1+. Like, I'm going to be if you're talking about just a throwaway pick to take that kid with 7 sacks in the Big 12 from Cliff Kingsbury's alma mater, I'm going to have a difficult time with that. For a guy who, passing on a guy who had 27.5 sacks for Nick Saban in the SEC, like, I'm giving Monti and company the benefit of the doubt, but man, oh man, that would be a tough sell for the franchise.
He had like 56.5 tackles for loss. He was just an absolute TFL machine.
Make it make sense.
He was good against the pass and the run. What do we know about Wilson? You know, not ultra productive, and also he's what'd you say, 24?
Who?
Wilson.
Yeah, he's old.
Yeah, well. Not for his earth, but as an NFL draft prospect.
And like somebody made a great point in the chat, and it's not apples to oranges, but it bears repeating. I'm going to talk about this ad nauseum during the draft season. Like the Terrell Suggs thing is a real thing. This franchise got greedy once upon a time and had 2 number 1s, and they opted not to take Terrell Suggs twice. And they took Calvin Pace and Brian Johnson. And Terrell Suggs is like, I'm over here to change your franchise. I went to Arizona State, and they passed on him. They got greedy with their draft picks. Sometimes the smart play is to just stick and pick Cardinals, but it's Monti. It's not Keim, so we should feel good about that. You should feel good about Underdog Fantasy, by the way. Kevin Durant, not sure if you guys knew this. He's on the Phoenix Suns now. Supposed to be playing Manana tomorrow in Charlotte with the Phoenix Suns. And right now on Underdog Fantasy, get ahead with you and your buddies on the KD train for the Phoenix Suns. Like, will Kevin Durant hit the higher in his points? Of course he will. Check out Underdog Fantasy. It does daily fantasy sports differently. I've been yearning for this moment. Number 35 for the Suns. I'm going to bet the higher in just about everything I can do. And get this, you can draft up to 6 NBA players with no positional limits and move forward. Like, you can take the entire starting 5 for the Phoenix Suns if you want to. I want you to make it easy on yourself. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com, download the app, sign up with promo code, you guessed it, it's PHNX. Underdog is going to match your first deposit up to $100. Put it on Hundy, boop, get out of Hundy on Underdog Fantasy, or 5 or 25 or 50 or 75 or whatever you want to do. Do it with Underdog Fantasy. I say this all the time, it bears repeating. We don't have partners that we personally don't believe in. We don't use in our professional life, our personal life. I use Underdog Fantasy literally every day. I can't wait to wager on Kevin Durant. Underdog Fantasy, get in on the action today, Bo.
Yeah, and I think when I look at all these mock drafts, we talk about the Cardinals looking at Jalen Carter and Will Anderson, and then somebody says Tyree Wilson over any of those 2 prospects. I'm like, you're not dialing in on your gummy game. Like, you're going to some pretty rough stuff, right? Swag, as we used to call it, like some swag. Not great marijuana or cannabis products. And as far as our friends over at OG's, they're going to take care of that, right? You're not going to be having any bad mock drafts because you had a bad trip. OG's is going to lock you in. They got the happy balance going on. It's the CBD to THC 1-to-1 ratio. Can't go wrong, especially since it's strawberries and cream. It's a delicious tasting gummy. And they've got so many different flavors, so many different products that you can get into. You're indica, you're sativa kind of person. Well, check them out. All their products, you can find them online, ogsbrands.com. That's OGEEZbrands.com. Find out all their tropical flavors. How about the orange creamsicle? Our guy Frank Sanders, of course, you know and love about Frank. He loves the orange creamsicle.
He does.
He
loves it.
He's just you can't get away from it, but you can't go wrong. How about they get the sleep time gummy? We're staying in a house of horrors as far as an Airbnb. I mean, there is a Raggedy Ann doll all over the place. Anywhere you turn your head, you can see it, and it's looking at you.
It's a shrine.
So I'm having a tough time sleeping right now, so I might pop myself an OG Sleep Time gummy. It's aquaberry flavor. It's on point. It's exactly what I need to put me to sleep and keep me asleep until I get taken into the depths of hell from Raggedy Ann at our Airbnb, and I don't have to worry about it. I can be rested. I can wake up tomorrow. I can talk to Will Anderson, ask him all the questions we want to know.
Of course.
We can talk to Jalen Carter. We can talk to Tyree Wilson. All thanks to our friends over at OG's brands, strawberries and cream, Happy Balance gummies, live on shelves at your local dispensary. Don't miss out. Check out all of them online, ogsbrands.com, and on your socials at OG's Brands. Maybe 21 years older as well.
You do. Rebuild's a dirty word, and I think that Cardinal fans are more patient than we give them credit for than maybe the franchise does. Remember, it was like a quick fix with Keim, and Bidwell would never say rebuild. He would say reload or retool. Mm-hmm. Cardinal fans are patient with all but one thing, because we've been patient long enough, and that's new uniforms. So we posted this on Twitter. We talked about it last week. We would ask Monti Ossenfort about the status of the Arizona Cardinals uniform search, and here is what the Cardinal GM had to say.
You know what? That is there's a lot of areas that are out of my areas of expertise, and I'd put that one up there too. I don't know. I like the bird. I like the Cardinal. It's the same logo as my high school way back in the day, so I kind of like it. I don't know. We'll cross that. They'll tell me what's going on with the jersey when we get to it.
Okay, so I wouldn't overreact to that as a yes or a no. I would just say he's new and he probably doesn't know.
Well, he did say, did he slip up? He said when they find out about the new jerseys, they'll tell me.
Mark Dalton, who's the vice president of communications for the Cardinals, laughed when I asked that. And I prefaced all the media around this. I said, I'm going to ask this question about uniforms because PHNX Cardinals Faithful wants to know, and we ask what you guys want to know. And listen.
You're the ultimate man of the people.
I am. Self-appointed. But it's not nothing. And I think the people who come out and say, stop talking about uniforms, it's done. Players care. Coaches care. You don't think Jonathan Gannon and Cliff Kingsbury with swag for days, especially Gannon now, wants his team to look good, play good, right? And we talked about it. We don't have this clip, but we're like, you guys were ass last year at home. Like, how are you going to fix the home environment? And Gannon gave a good answer. He basically said, we just have to win games. You got one win in 16 months. Uniform, get people excited to want to rock a Cardinal jersey and come to State Farm Stadium and root on this team. If it's a running joke that your uniforms are awful, and they are for 20 years, how does that? It doesn't improve it does nothing for you when you're trying to root on the Cardinals. But if you change things up and you get people excited, it doesn't matter what the players look like at least year one. People will come and support you. And so that's why I always push back. It's that's a stupid question. It doesn't matter. It's not football. No, it does matter.
Yeah, they're outdated. You look at any time somebody puts out a uniform ranking, you'll find the Arizona Cardinals close to the bottom. There's nobody in their right minds that's putting the Arizona Cardinals as one of the most liked uniforms in the league. It's just not.
Yeah.
It's not. It's not classic. They changed it, as you said, over 20 years now.
It was in 2004.
Right. 2004, Larry Fitzgerald's second season, and he had to don those duds for basically his entire career throughout. And it just was it's unfair because we got the Commanders crew over here, and they've gone through 3 uniform changes in 3 seasons.
Some teams just want it more, man.
They're terrible, but they're a change of pace, and you can kind of get some part of the fan base on board. But I did like what Monti Ossenfort said, because I think it is off limits. The bird is off limits. We're not,
and that's
not
fine.
touching the bird. The bird is it's been there. It's going to continue to be there. So I'm on board with him keeping the bird. I think the white helmet should stay. But as far as the threads, the jersey, the pants,
that's
absolutely
not their identity.
No.
We're not asking you to change your identity of the team. I mean, change the culture because it's not good. But they could almost go back, and we've talked about this on the show, to the 90s uniforms. Just throw those on again, or remodel them, or remaster them so they're a little bit more current. I said it before the show about white pants with a red top and the Phoenix, the Arizona flag on the shoulder, and that's it. And then you get the bird on the helmet, and you're fine. You could buy yourself a half decade doing that, and more people are going to put the Nike logo on it. You're good to go. The piping, and it just is so mid-2000s. It makes me think of I don't even know. Old football that's not current anymore.
Right.
You trotted out these uniforms when the league was about I formation and fullbacks and run game. I mean, the league has changed with the league.
Right. It looks like if you were to watch Any Given Sunday and the uniforms that were in that.
Yeah, or what's the movie with Keanu Reeves?
Oh, the replacements?
Yeah, it's they're replacement level uniforms in more ways than one.
We have that clip of Jonathan Gannon. You asked him about this about one win in 16 months. This is his answer.
Yeah, that's you want to win every game that you play. You know what I mean? So I think that I didn't know that stat off the top of my head, but you want it to be a hard place for people to come in and play. And I've played against Arizona a couple times when they were kind of rolling, and it's a hard place to play. It's good fans. It gets loud. So we want to put a product on the field that we can establish. Home field advantage comes from the team being good. So that's what we need to do first.
That question last year before the start of the season because they were awful at the end of the 2021 season at home. And he said they were going to change some stuff to fix that. And they didn't. And they were worse at home in 2022. So Gannon, it was just like there's no magic elixir. Like we don't want fans to sell their tickets. Do what you want, but we don't want, we want to see it packed with red and white. How do you do that? You got to put on a product that people want to come watch and support.
Are you surprised that didn't come up? That Bidwell said, look, we had to make a change. We had one home win since October of 2021.
I think he likes it because the bar is low, not for the fan base. People want to see playoffs and that kind of thing. But, I don't think even Gannon knew how bad it was with Cliff and Keim.
Yeah.
Because you see the Cardinals, they're in the playoffs the year before. Kyler Murray's running all over the place. They've got star players all over the place, Buddha and DHop and company and Ertz. And then it's like, oh, wait, they've won one home game in 16 months.
If you stick and pick and you're going to put another prospect that you want to hype up in these uniforms, I think that's it's not a great move.
No.
It's not you want to it's out with the old, in with the new. We got producer Allie here on site. Do we have any super chats today? I know we saw some couple earlier. I didn't want to leave anybody out.
Yes, we do have one here, and let me double check if we have any other. Mitch said, Bo and Johnny are the effing best. If we don't get new uniforms, I'm going to lose my crap. Keep pressing the issue, guys.
Everyone's great. Our all-city team here is fantastic. We have had the best time, the best kickoff for the NFL Combine here. And good news, it only continues into tomorrow, the rest of this week. And you guys have made the biggest difference. Like this video, share it around. We appreciate you bearing with us.
Yeah, it's pretty simple ask. If you want to see the Arizona Cardinals get new uniforms, hit that like button.
Well,
there's 250-plus people in this chat right now. Just hit the like. It's simple. It's easy, and it helps, move this video up to the front of some Cardinals discussions.
Yeah.
And it continues to kind of put it out in front of some people.
I think the main I have a couple takeaways from today.
Okay.
The number one takeaway is that I think Isaiah Simmons' fifth-year option is not getting picked up. Mm-hmm. Number two is DeAndre Hopkins could be traded soon. Not will he be traded. I think he's going to be traded soon. And then number three is I want Will Anderson to cement himself in the conversation for third overall, and I'm fearful that hasn't happened yet.
All right. I learned a couple things, and I agree with your entire assessment.
Okay.
Also, you're a man of the people. I learned that.
I appreciate that.
That kind of, you solidified yourself there, and I'm scared to go back to the Airbnb. That's all.
You can't get off the Airbnb. The good news is we're not going to bed tonight. We get to go out and have a good time here in Indianapolis. And
we're going to buckle up?
Yeah.
We're going to let it rip?
Yes.
Let's do it.
Yeah, we've got someone asking, when are we getting PHNX branded seatbelts? Buckle up.
Oh, that's a great idea. Maybe we'll put it on a shirt in the merchandise locker. That's a great. Did you say that? I don't know.
I don't think so.
Producer Shane. We love Shane.
Causing attention.
Hey, real quick, go and look at the video we've had on this show and then on our Twitter, PHNX Cardinals. Shane Diefenbach, phenomenal job getting that stuff from Monty and company. And the good news is that's what you can expect all week when we talk to Jalen Carter and Will Anderson and whomever you want to talk to. So we blow. Oh, Shane's quitting now. Never mind. That's not happening.
Well, and also it serves a bigger purpose when we hear Monti Ossenfort say that they're open for business on that third overall pick. Like, we have to talk to other prospects outside of Jalen Carter and Will Anderson.
Do we have to?
Yeah,
now?
we do. We got to look at Skoronski. We got to look at Paris Johnson Jr., some of the offensive linemen, some of the cornerbacks. I think somebody asked about the cornerbacks, Jonathan Gannon. That's his forte. He's a defensive back himself. So, yes, we have to scour Indianapolis for the Arizona Cardinals' top pick.
How many picks do you need? They're going to trade Hopkins. They're going to get one, if not multiple picks for Hopkins.
All the picks.
And then you're going to trade down from 3 and get more picks?
Yeah.
How many picks do they have right now? They have like 8? 7 or 8?
Yeah.
They could end up with what, 12? I guess. I mean, they're lottery tickets at the end of the day. Man, oh man, though. Yeah. Jalen Carter is so effing good.
He just absolutely collapses pockets
He
on his own. It's a beautiful thing to see. Also, we talked about the Cardinals uniforms, how brutal they are. We've got great uniforms that you could wear proudly. PHNXlocker.com. Check it out. Get your gear. We got the celebration, the end zone celebration T-shirt up there. We got the Hollywood Hills sign on Camelback Mountain. You can continue to celebrate this team with that T-shirt. You got the old school bird, like the 1990s champion kind of feel to it.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong with any of the swag. PHNXlocker.com. Plus, our hats are unreal. CH Joe was talking and kind of bitching, like, where are our hats? Where are our hats? We've got great hats that you can get and you can represent Phoenix, PHNX, Arizona with our hats. We got them ready and available for you. Just go to PHNXlocker.com.
And maybe a new shirt dropping soon.
That's breaking
PHNX,
news.
A little teaser.
From Miss Allie, thank you. Wow.
And our KD shirt is live, too.
Yes.
Or I'm sorry. The
Slim Reaper.
Yes.
We're always in trouble. This show's in trouble.
We need to get out of here.
We're coming off. Listen, this is the last day of February. We're coming off our best month to date, and that's because of all of you. We appreciate you all. If you have not done so already, please be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcast to the PHNX Cardinals podcast. Like this video, subscribe to PHNX Sports on YouTube so you know, and this is important to remind everybody, we're going live early this week to bring you the premier content. We're talking maybe 10 a.m. the rest of this week for you. You can watch it on replay, but it's more fun to join live, isn't it? So, set aside some time, hang out with us as we bring you your premier Arizona Cardinal content live from the 2023 NFL Combine. For Bo Brock, I'm Johnny Venerable. We'll see you tomorrow.